Hello, 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 and welcome back to this episode of the Sovereign Society podcast. I'm really excited to be here today with my dear sister, Rashunda, who, this is a really special episode because this is the first conversation I've had with a guest since I had my rebirth, is the way that I'm seeing this recent seizure I had back in October. And it was right before Halloween, and the ancestors are coming through. And I share that because to me, tarot is so ancestral, and it's a tool that's been shared for so long and has taken us through a journey. And it is based on a journey, right? When we go through the major arcana, it's a journey. When we go through the minor arcana, we're honoring the elements of earth, air, water, fire. Like these, there's such a rise of the occult coming because our ancestors are here to support us as we navigate through this human experience. So I just want to say thank you, sister, for being here and for sharing your medicine.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And especially during this time, which you've been through. Yeah, it's a really auspicious moment. And I think it is, I think we should take the opportunity to see what the messages are that come through. So thank you very much for having me.
I love it. Yes. And I love that this was through the Numinous, because one of my favorite guests I've had on this space has been Ruby Warrington. And the way that she also chose to answer the call and follow her dharma and create this whole brand, and then bringing forth so many powerful medicine people like yourself to come on and read and create books and all these things. I would love to hear how that journey also started with you and Ruby, because like I said, Ruby is one of my favorite people. Shout out to Ruby. If you want to hear the episode that I had with Ruby, everyone check in the show notes and listen to it, because it's a very genuine and real conversation. So now I would love to hear how this journey started.
Yeah, this was it was really incredible. It was a lot of, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening on both of our sides. But what happened was, just to let everybody know, it's the Numinous Tarot Guide, a new way to read the cards. That's what, the Numinous has put out. And, I contributed to it. I wrote the text for it. And what happened was, I had like months before, I had made the decision to forego creating content for the corporate world. And I had said, this is A, it doesn't feel right. B, it's just, I could be serving I don't want to say a higher purpose, because I don't want to knock anyone who is doing stuff for corporate, but it's not that. It's just, I had said, I could be serving another purpose that is truer to what I want to do.
It's not a higher purpose. It's your purpose.
It's my purpose. Exactly. And so, and I had said, okay, I love writing. I love writing about, spirituality and helping people connect the quote unquote mundane world to spirituality and to the spiritual world. And I had been a follower of the Numinous, and I liked what Ruby was doing. And so I just sent her a quick email, just a cold email, like a year or two ago, saying, hey, if you ever need someone to write for the Numinous or whatever, I'd like to offer my services. And Ruby wrote back, and she was like, I have actually been following you and I like what you're doing. So if the opportunity comes up, just, I'll reach out. And then she wrote back and asked if I would be interested in doing the tarot scopes, because
on YouTube.
Ruby has a wonderful program. It's a reader in residence program for tarot readers. And she invites a tarot reader to be a reader in residence for a year. And so she said, would you be interested in doing this for a year? And I was like, well, yeah, cool. I could do videos. Hey, that's pretty cool. And I kid you not, probably after maybe 2 or 3 weeks after we had said, okay, let's, work on the teroscopes, Ruby wrote to me and she said, "You're not going to believe this." I was like, "What?" And she said, "Let's have a call." And we had the call and she said, "I have just, been contacted by whatever this publisher was asking, if I was interested in doing, if the Numinous was interested in doing a book on tarot. And do you know a tarot reader?" And I was like, and both of us were just staring at each other like, how is this? How did this happen? And so we just said, okay, this was meant to be, because with so many things just falling into place, we said, okay, this is, something is there, and the universe is sending a message for, this something to happen, and for this book to come to life. And that's really what happened. And so the offer came for the book, and we started working on it, and then it happened. But it was just 1, 2, 3, 4, just things falling into place. And there were a lot of Zoom calls and Google Meet calls with us just looking at each other going, "Can you believe this?" And it was, yeah, that's what happened. So that's how the Numinous Tarot Guide came to be.
I love that. And that's because you had this intuitive hunch to reach out. Like, that was you taking that leap of faith to reach out. Something inside was like, let me send this cold call email to someone I appreciate, and someone I value.
I appreciated Ruby. I loved her work. I visited her website, had never contacted her, had never met her, had never DM'd her really or anything. It was just a cold email. And that's how all of this happened.
I love that.
Can you believe it?
So if you're listening and there is a teacher that you respect and you feel as though you can contribute and work, take that leap of faith.
Do it. If to the people out there, if you don't get anything else from this video or podcast or wherever, how you're listening or watching this, send that email, send that DM, reach out, send that letter, send that pigeon, however way you're going to do it. Go ahead and do it, because you never know. And even if that person can't use you, they know people. They'll say, okay, maybe you're not right for this, but I know someone that you may be right for. So go ahead and do it. So that's my message. Yeah.
That's really special.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I love that. So with that journey and taking this leap of faith that led to you writing the Numinous Tarot Guide, what was the driving force that you knew that was going to be unique? Like, how did you know that this book was going to be something different than all the other tarot books out there?
The main thing is that I get something out of every tarot book that I have. So I truly appreciate what I have learned through reading and experiencing and talking to my mentors. I will say that how this is different is that it has modern day stories that link modern day to tarot. I don't believe there's a book out there that links gentrification to tarot like the Six of Swords. I'm not sure if there's a book out there that links, the potential for burnout to the Two of Pentacles. I'm not exactly sure.
I love this.
And that's the thing. So it's more about just being real and saying, this is what's going on in the day to day, and this is how you can link tarot to what's going on in your life. And
it's
again,
adaptive. It's adaptive.
Exactly. And I've said this before, that tarot can be used as a divination tool or an excavation tool.
Mm.
And so I use it mostly as an excavation tool. And what I'm hoping is that folks can dig into the Numinous Tarot Guide and also use it to excavate thoughts, feelings, the reason why they're doing things, or what's behind this particular action or this particular thought. And they can use the cards and the images on the cards to sort of link to that and just to figure out why.
That is beautiful. So I'm actually in a tarot deck.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Which deck?
I am in the Moonchild Tarot from Danielle Noel.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And I am the Six of Pentacles.
Oh, that's very interesting. It's the balancing the give and take. And so why the Six of Pentacles? I'm very curious to that.
That's what she had me as.
Okay.
She put me as the Six of Pentacles. And to me, I'm a Gemini, and I've been working a lot throughout my journey of balance and really finding that. And it's amazing because my best friend is the Five of Pentacles. And then I'm the Six of Pentacles, which is, it's pretty fascinating in that sense. And I actually have it right there.
Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Okay. There you are.
Yep. And
wow.
So Danielle gave me a print of it recently. And it's just something that when I pull that card and I pull myself, it's confirming to me that I've found this balance within, which is something that I've been striving for my entire life. And like I said, the fact that I'm having this conversation with you days after I had a seizure, and I'm seeing this world with new eyes, the eyes that I'm seeing the world through divine eyes right now. And this is the balance that I've been craving myself, to balance my ego and myself as well. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, we can transcend the ego, but there's also parts of us that the suffering that the ego can experience or navigate through has the ability to transform into compassion for those once we've alchemized that suffering. Because to me, a person in ego is a person suffering because they are disconnected from God. They are disconnected from their true self. Okay. And so for me, just anytime I pull my Six of Pentacles, it's just like, you're on the path, you're on the right path, you're on the right track. And actually this morning I pulled the Six of Pentacles, which is pretty interesting. So with that, I would love to talk about, for us to dive deeper into the journey of the major arcana.
Okay.
And talk about what your interpretation is, or how you feel of like going from like the Fool and the Tower moments and Justice and the Sun, the Moon. Like, I would love to hear, like you said, you've written a book that is adaptable to the current times and what's going on. What do you see as the tarot journey from the beginning to the end, like in the major arcana?
To be very honest with you, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot, the Fool's Path or the Fool's Journey, or however you want to call that, I am beginning to see that now as the Fool's Hopscotch, because time isn't linear. At least I don't think it is. You know, we sit up and we say, for example, you fall in love, get married, have a baby. That's sort of the mainstream linear, but that's not reality. And I see, you know, some people have a baby, get married, fall in love, or do the reverse. And I see the Fool's Journey or the Fool's path, however you want to call it, it's like hopscotch. For example, you may come into a quote unquote new situation and you may think, oh, it's the Fool, because you automatically think, okay, new situation, a Fool. But you may walk into that situation, and however way, maybe it's through messages from your intuition, messages from your ancestors, messages from whatever, where you have a complete picture of everything, and that's the world. So I am now in this process of sort of trying to pull the Fool's journey, the major arcana, away from number one is the Fool. I'm sorry, zero is a Fool.
Mm-hmm.
Zero is a Fool. One is the Magician, and then two is the High Priestess. Maybe you jump right in and you have that High Priestess energy of being still and having that self-knowledge. Maybe you jump right into the major arcana and you're having your Tower moment where everything's fuck nuts, you know. And so I mean, it really is. And I think that that journey, if we start looking at it as something where it's like particular life stages, and you can be at whatever life stage, depending on what's going on, and not locking yourself into, well, it has to be the Fool. It has to, and then after the Fool, it has to be this, and it has to be that. So that's sort of how I feel about the major arcana and the Fool's journey right now.
That is amazing, because I relate to it a lot. Like, and I said, I feel like I've had I had my Tower moment. And to me, you know, I had my first seizure almost a year ago today as we're recording. And I've had a handful since throughout the year where I was in the hospital. I found myself on the floor at my house, and called my parents and had them come and pick me up. I've had multiple brain scans. And I think there's also a part of when you were talking about it can go different ways. I think in life as well, because I feel like for my journey, like specifically, I feel like I found the root of what started this whole experience I've been navigating through, something I've been fighting since 2007. And tools like tarot have helped me see that. And I think there has to also be like, we can't be like dependent on these tools as well.
Right.
And I think that's part of the balance of it. Yes, these are tools, but like, you have to also trust yourself and go within and listen in that sense as well. So I'm curious to hear how your journey with tarot started, because it's like I said, it's such a tool that's been used for. So I just love that we're talking, like we're recording this conversation around Halloween as well. Like, I just needed to share that, you know?
Yeah.
But I would love to hear your journey as to where tarot became a piece of your life.
I actually, let me just say that before I even tell the story, I have always had sort of an opening to the spiritual. You know, I've always had this leading towards it. And so what happened was I was a reporter for a TV station in North Carolina. And I'd been given this assignment to, I think it was about alternative practices, alternative spiritual practices. And probably because I was known as the one who was open to that type of thing, I was given the assignment. And I was supposed to interview a woman who's a Reiki practitioner, and she would not give me the interview until she had done my cards. And she did a reading for me, and it was it opened up a lot. You know, I won't go into, you know, everything that we talked about, but it really, it stuck with me, especially connecting the images
How
and the
old would you
cards to my
say you
life.
were at that time?
I was 20. I'm 51 now. So let's just say I was probably, I want to say 25, 26. It's been a while ago. So it's been
almost before your Saturn return.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a while back. And I said, wow, okay, I'm really connecting to this. And I just went from there. I read mostly for myself. I did not read for anyone for a long, long time. I'm talking about a good, I want to say before I read for anyone else, probably about a decade or 15 years went by. And so I was doing it only for myself. And then I started reading for my friends. And the way I got into doing it professionally was I just was reading for a friend in a restaurant. And, I just put the cards on the table and she looked at me and she said, you really should be doing this professionally because I'm seeing a whole nother side of you. And I was like, no, I could never do it professionally or take money or whatever. And she was like, no, you really should. And then the person that was waiting on us saw what we were doing. And she came up and said, could you read my cards for me? I'm like, aren't you on your shift? What are you talking about? What the hell? She said, give me a second. And then she had someone cover some tables for her or whatever. She came back and I read her cards. And so that was my journey. But my journey was more of, it felt right. It matched what I was doing, or it matched what I needed, even when I didn't know what I needed. I needed those visual cues, so 78 visual cues to link into my intuition and to help me dig down into my psyche and figure out, why am I doing this? Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I keep doing this? And so that's how tarot helped. And that basically was my journey.
I love that. It's interesting because I come from, I was so funny when I was reading, when you were like setting up your, when we were scheduling our whole thing, you were talking about what's inspiring you right now is that you moved to the Italian section of Switzerland.
Yes.
And I love that because my family is like super Italian. Like my grandfather, I was raised by my nonno, and my parents had my dad is an Italian chef. He's been a chef for over 42 years.
Wow.
My grandfather was a chef. We had restaurants in Italy, all over California. My grandfather, I grew up with him having a kitchen in his garage.
Cool.
Like very like traditional Italian family. And so much of the Italian culture is also so interwoven with the occult as well. So. Like my Aunt Carmela Samela, she was like a fire pistol, and she was a witch, and I think there's no accident why my soul, like my mom had me named Sabrina to continue on with that witchy kind of energy. And so I would love to hear, like, so are you there now in Switzerland, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've lived in Switzerland for like 20 years. So yeah,
I love that. Okay. So you there now, like how do you see so much of that culture and the occult interwoven into being there? Because like I said, for me, like it's so my lineage, like my mom's first generation American. So it's like, it's part of my blood. So I would love to hear this experience on how you see the occult really interwoven in your environment.
It's interesting because, the definition of the word occult, I believe it means covered or not seen. But here it's sort of, it is open and seen, and it's so interwoven in the culture. Lifestyle here that it's in the culture that it's not, I feel even weird saying occult because it's not really a cult. It is culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, you go down into Italy and you in like the Italian border is like a 5-minute drive from where I am. And,
Amazing.
you have, Madonnas everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these churches everywhere, these gorgeous churches where, you know, you don't have people going there every single day, but it is part of the community. Being part of the church is the community, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people are religious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of just the spiritual lifestyle, there is just something here. Um, there is a magic in the mundane.
Mm.
There is it, and I've traveled down in Italy. I've gone to, like, there's a Tarocchi museum, there's, all of these places, and it is where they've sort of blended in this magic with these 78 pieces of cardstock, because tarot itself, the way we know about it, started in Italy, Tarocchi, as a game.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then it sort of, and that was like back in the 1400s, I believe. And so it sort of blossomed from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it is. That's what I sort of appreciate about this, about the culture, because there is this spiritual side, but it is so interwoven in the community and in the just
It's like the
day-to-day life.
blood. It's the blood
It's
of
the
the
blood. It's in
culture.
the blood of the culture. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me
Mm-hmm.
really emotional.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That makes me really emotional. Um, because like I said, I like on my neck right now, I've got all my charms. I've got my Madonna, I've got
Mm-hmm.
my horn. This was
Yeah.
my grandfather's. I've got my Malocchio on here to like
Yeah.
ward off evil.
Mm-hmm.
I always grew up with all of these symbolisms, and I saw it as like breadcrumbs to my dharma and my purpose,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
my bigger mission in that sense as well.
Mm-hmm. And also for me, being African American, I saw sort of not of course not like a cultural link, but being an African American coming from the South, there is a spiritual side of being a Black American from the South that is woven into our culture. And I saw this parallel between that and the culture here, where it's not the religion, at least the way I experienced, it wasn't in your face all the time, but it was more of like interwoven in, in the cooking, being spiritual in terms of cooking, what you're putting in your food,
Yeah.
in terms of how you're treating people who may have an illness or who may have something going on. It's all interwoven. And that's what I saw, and that's what I like about the culture.
This conversation is just pure medicine for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's taken like it took me time to in my own journey to recognize how mysticism is also part, because there was a lot of shame or fear or because of the church of condemning, but I think there was just so much misunderstanding.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's been part of my healing journey, and something that I know has been fueling me to share and have conversations like this to bring medicine and to unleash my medicine to help people stay woke to like what's actually happening. Like my very first program I created was called Stay Woke.
Wow. Okay.
My very first online course was called Stay Woke. And it was all about teaching people how to trust their intuition and to heal their inner child and to connect with their ancestry. And the fact that you call your platform Stay Woke Tarot, like you can't make this shit up. You can't ignore these synchronicities and this alignment in these conversations. And so I'm curious to hear with that, like, what made you know that you were calling your brand Stay Woke Tarot?
Well, it's a couple of things. I mean, the first thing is that Dr. Martin Luther King, back in the 1960s, in the early 60s, he had the speech, and I believe he gave the speech more than once. It's called Remaining Aware During a Revolution. And that was like the concept of stay woke, because Dr. King talked about remaining on point and knowing what's going on during revolutionary times. And during the speech, he talked about he gave the parable of I believe it was Rip Van Winkle, where Rip Van Winkle went up this mountain. It was during the Revolutionary War, right before the Revolutionary War, and he went up this mountain and he saw this picture of King George. He went up the mountain, he went to sleep, and he stayed asleep for 20 years. When he came back down, the picture of King George had been replaced with George Washington. And so the message was, there are so many things going on. We're going through revolutionary times. Remain aware of that. Remain aware of what's going on in society. And that's one of the reasons why I named it Stay Woke Tarot. And I did it before it became a hashtag. It was before people started using it as a hashtag. It was, this is like 2015. And I was wondering, how can we use tarot to remain aware of or be aware of why we do things? Where's this programming coming from? Like, for example, why do I feel like, and this is just me personally, why do I feel like I am under pressure to give birth or have a child to feel like I am a quote unquote woman here in this society? And I had a hard time with the Empress card, because normally people would, Empress is, she's pregnant in some decks. She's pregnant and she's giving birth, and it's about children. It's about being motherly. But through tarot, I realized, what? The Empress card can mean more than just having children. It can mean giving birth to your ideas. It can mean being out in nature. It can mean protecting nature. Protecting your water, protecting your what's growing. And that's how tarot sort of made me realize there is the mainstream view of things, and then there is my view.
Whew. Preach.
Yeah. And looking at the pictures on those cards, and really it's whatever deck you choose, but looking at those pictures on those cards, that can help you get in touch with your intuition and sort of dig up what you've pushed down, because you've been living through this fucknut society where we're not using your intuition. People don't look too kindly on that. And so when you use tarot or whatever, it could be tea leaves or whatever, but just use something to unlock your intuition and to get back down to that DNA knowledge. And you can say, hey, wait a second. What's really going on here? What do I need to remain aware about? What do I need to stay woke about? And so that's sort of my main, my main reason for naming it Stay Woke Tarot. So yeah.
Oh, so good. Yes.
So yeah, that's where Stay Woke Tarot came from.
I look forward to see the future of our society as more and more people accept these mystic tools and adapt them into society to alchemize it into a form of modern mysticism, like you sharing a book that is creating or sharing definitions of these major minor arcana based off of the reality we're navigating through right now and the adaptation. That's what I'm really looking forward to witness, is the adaptation of these mystic tools, where we're still paying reverence for the ancestral connection and the lineage of these tools, while also adapting to the Aquarian age, this new paradigm. We all came here to live, to experience, to unleash our medicine through. It's something I'm really looking forward to. And, you know, like I said, I grew up in the church, and in 2012, I was struck by lightning. And after that, it was, wow, I'm here to dive in deeper. I'm here to pay reverence for what has been, in terms of what resonates and what works for me. And also being aware of what is surrounding me, because I've been called to lead and be a revolutionist. Like I see myself as a revolutionist. I always have been a sacred disruptor, someone who has wanted to shake shit up, because I don't believe, like you said, like I don't believe in some cookie cutter like way of life. Like, we weren't born to fit in, we were made to stand out. And so when we have the courage to I wouldn't even necessarily say question the way things were, but infuse or bring, it's like curiosity or like insight. I don't know, based off of your own perspective, based off of your own journey. And I think it's really beautiful too, that, you know, as this strong Black woman who is living in Europe and, you know, came from the South, moving to Europe, and you're using this opportunity to pay reverence from a space in an environment that has such strong occult in the blood of the land and the soil of the land, and using that to be part of the revolution. So how are you seeing, or how are you choosing to answer the call right now to be part of the revolution?
Well, one is writing the book. You know, that's the first thing with the Numinous Tarot Guide. I think the second way that I am sort of choosing, I guess you could say, to be part of the revolution is honestly living my life. Living my life to where people can see that I have said no to some pretty, you know, lucrative opportunities where I actually said, oh my God, will I live through this? And it's like, oh my God, I did. I survived.
You didn't survive, you thrived through that.
Yeah. And because there were some times when I was like, did I do the right thing by saying no to this or no to that? And finally saying, no, this does not feel right for me. You know, leaving jobs that didn't feel right for me. And then when I saw what was going on, I was like, don't know about that. Leaving even relationships where it was like, don't know about that, where I could have had an extremely comfortable life. I was like, don't know. So I hope and pray that at least the people around me see how I'm living my life, you know, not being so, I'm not presentational. I'm actually an introvert, very much so. But I just hope people see that I am trying my best to live my life in a way that I can look at myself in the morning in the mirror and say, okay, you know, I'm happy with where I am. There were times where I did not want to look at myself in the morning. There were times when, I was doing things or working in jobs and, you know, creating content for, I mean, I won't go deep into it, but creating content where I knew I was like, don't know if this is true, but I still have to do it because I got to get this check, you know, which is reality. But it got to the point I was like, you know what, I got to make some decisions because one way or another, I'm going to have to pay for this. I'm going to have to pay for the words that I am putting out. And then I have to, to say you're living your life authentically, that is becoming so trite. People say that all the time, but I just say living my life in a way to where when I leave this body and I go to wherever I'm going to go when I'm 80 or whatever, and I get to whoever is making that decision, I can say, you know what? I did the best I could with what I had. And I tried to live in a way that was truthful to myself. And they send me on wherever I'm supposed to go. So that's what I feel.
That's really beautiful. And you're not trying, you're doing.
Yeah.
I think we doubt ourselves with saying like, oh, I'm trying my best. Like, you need to give yourself more credit of you're doing your best, And I think that's something that I actively work to witness and to see is like giving myself more credit, especially when you're choosing to answer the call and do something outside the comfort zone or whatever, you're going against the norm, because you're paving a new path. That's how you're choosing to, that's part of the revolution in that sense too, that you're paving a new path and choosing to answer the call.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and I also know that not everyone can do that.
Yes.
Because of whatever reason. And that also needs to be respected. Yeah.
I agree to that. So now with these tools that have been passed for centuries and they're coming more to the forefront of the mainstream media, and we're seeing them as the norm in a way of our society, right? This is to me the blood of what's happening in the 2020s and beyond. I think ever since the Mayan calendar shift of the of 2012, and it took 9 years. We had to go through a Saturn like quadrant, to really integrate, because I work a lot with Tantric Numerology. It's like one of my favorite tools that I've learned as a Kundalini yoga practitioner. And for instance, like the 9 is the subtle body. So what lives on when we die is the soul and the subtle body. So the subtle body is like, hey, there's a song that's playing and it reminds me of my grandfather, or like, hey, here's a bird that was like my best friend, or, you know what I mean? It's the subtlety that goes on that we can continue to communicate through that sense. And so now here we are, almost at the end of 2021, 9 years after the Mayan calendar shift and the shadow period of this integration. And I don't know about you, but I've been feeling so much. Especially after I've had the seizure, I woke up from that and I'm seeing this place with brand new eyes. I see God, I see love, I see everything that I strive to see and to actualize that I knew was a possibility. And it wouldn't be without tools like social media. Here we are connecting across the world where our hearts are connecting. We get to share this space and talk about this medicine, this mysticism, the spiritual truth of who we are in this human experience. How do you see these tools continuing to raise the frequency of the planet and revolutionizing the world and humanity as we know it?
Wow, that's a big question. I am not entirely sure if the tools are doing the work or we're doing the work, and the tools are just amplifying our power.
Like they're holding the container. Do you see? They're holding the space.
I think I think that's what's going on. That's what's going on. But the other thing is, you're right, the occult, tarot and astrology and all this stuff is coming into the mainstream. Do I think it's permanent? No. I don't think it's permanent. I think you do have people who are interested in it now, in the occult right now, but for some folks it's a trend. And
Mm.
it helps, if it helps him get through this particular time, then that's fine. But I do think, I just saw an article in the Guardian today about tarot, and I was just like, okay. Um, I I think it's good that people are more open to it right
Mm-hmm.
now, but I do think there will be a fall off.
Mm.
And the people who stick with it after that fall off, those are the ones who will be doing the work.
Mm.
And those are the ones
Those
who
are the
will be,
leaders.
those will be the leaders, because I think there's going to be a fall off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when it's going to happen, but this I think tarot and astrology in terms of the mainstream, it's going to be the same thing as, you remember Hygge. Who everybody was into Hygge, the Danish Hygge. And I'm saying this because my husband's Danish, and it was, everybody was into that, and they were doing their knitting and their socks and talking about being cozy and all that. You don't hear it anymore.
So do you feel like this is a trend?
I think for some people it is. And as I was saying, I don't, I'm not necessarily looking down on it because it's a trend. I think some people need tarot, astrology, these divinatory practices to get them over, it's like a bridge
Mm-hmm.
to get them to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
When they get to that other side, they kind of leave it behind, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be some people who hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that we're talking about, like the leaders, the ones who are going to step out and say, okay, how can we use these tools to better society? And I think those are the people that, we should focus on and join and help, help them as they are trying to, do their work. The other folks, I think it's fine if you use tarot to get you through whatever, and you say, okay, I don't need this anymore. And I think that's fine, not knocking it at all. So yeah, that's just my view. That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's like we've been talking about, it's a lot about adaptation and the adapting to the curiosity people have of like, okay, so now with this, now what? Like, what am I, what do I use to get me through this?
I mean, there are some people who may start using tarot and they use that as a bridge to start doing only oracle cards. And then they use that as a bridge to only do I Ching. So it's, I mean,
the perfect example of that I see is Doreen Virtue. Because she had all of her decks and then she stopped printing them. And now she's just focused on Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's her journey. And I think that's her journey. That's part of what this adaptation is that everyone can respect your journey, her journey, his journey, their journey. And some tools, you may outgrow them. And I think that's okay.
And that's fine. And that's what I'm saying. If folks just need this as a bridge, then that's okay. I must say this, use it as a bridge, but then don't knock the people who keep using it. If you use tarot and then you say, okay, this isn't for me, I'm done with using this, I don't need it anymore. Okay, that's fine. But don't
may you be blessed. May you be blessed. May you be blessed. And I think if they start judging, that's the ego, and that's completely separating themselves from the bigger why. Exactly. As to why they even stared working with these tools.
Exactly. And that's the way I feel. So
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And just to share a blessing, if it's a tool that you don't resonate with anymore, but other people do, may you be blessed, and good luck on your journey.
Exactly.
Kind of thing,
Exactly.
But I'm really curious to continue to see how this culture continues to evolve.
I am too. I'm interested to seeing what will tarot, astrology, all of these things look like in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Because yeah, you read about tarot and Cosmo and Glamour and all these, let's see if they're still doing stories about it in the next couple of years. I hope so.
I do too.
I so hope.
I pray.
I hope and pray that these stories are still there. And that's why if anybody from Cosmo, Glamour, whatever, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep spreading the word about this.
My prayer is that it's still being used and done with reverence and integrity.
Exactly. Reverence and integrity.
Yes.
And I see that. I see that in the articles, and that's what I hope. That's what I hope continues.
Well, I don't like to say hope because hope is a beggar. So I like to have faith in knowing that it will.
I'm sorry, hope is a what?
Hope is a beggar is what they say. Like hope is a beggar, because you're like, oh, I hope I get this. Like fingers crossed, like believe in it. Like that's the way that I see it. Like I do my best to be like, okay, I believe in this. Like I believe that this can be the future.
So what if your name is Hope? You're screwed. I'm joking. Okay, no, this is
well, no. I think it could, because hope can be an antonym in a way that it can have multiple meanings.
True. There you go. Okay,
that's my answer to that.
Okay,
that's my answer to that.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Cool.
Hope is an antonym where it can have multiple meanings, but it's like, I hope and pray, like that means like you're not it's like you're doubting. That's the way that I see it sometimes. So it can be based on the way that it's perceived. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
The way that I think of it is like, okay, where is my faith? Like my faith is that, this tool has been something that's helped me and continues to help me. And my prayer is that the reverence of this tool and this medicine can continue forth to help other people along the way. And so that's where I put my energy more so than like holding my breath of like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Is there like for like doubt to creep in?
Right. I get it. Okay. Cool.
That's my take on that.
No, I get it. No worries.
Yeah. That's how I stay woke to it. It's like, how can where is there like a beacon of doubt versus like, this is an inner knowing that like, I feel within like my soul that, and maybe that's part of my leadership.
It could be. Yeah. And that goes into it. Yeah. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but anywho, this has been such a beautiful, special conversation. And I really appreciate you coming on. But before we close out, I have a few lightning round questions I want to ask.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm ready. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead. All right.
So what would you say is your favorite tarot deck?
Oh my gosh. It depends on the day. Right now, the Tazama African Tarot deck is one of my favorites. The second favorite one right now is Tarot for Kids by Teresa Reed, the Tarot Lady. It is, I just sent Teresa a message today saying, I flipped through this deck and I tear up because it's so sweet. And the artwork is so gentle, and it is for kids, and it has such a beautiful message. It's very gentle. So that's one of my favorite decks.
That's a leader. That's a leader right there.
Yeah, that's it really it depends. I have another deck that I love. It's called the Sakisaki Tarot by Monica Kiyosaki. She is I think the deck is out of print now, but she's an artist out of Tel Aviv, and it is a gorgeous deck that's full of like color and life. And it's for artists or people who are trying to get in touch with their creativity, no matter what's going on. I'm trying to think. So, I mean, I don't have one favorite deck because I have about 130 decks.
I have a plethora myself.
Okay. Yeah. And so I just rotate through them depending on
the vibe.
Depending on the vibe. Yeah. Yeah. Just depending on the vibe. So if you ask me next week, what's my favorite deck, I'll give you five other choices.
Amazing. I love that.
So yeah. Okay. What's the next question?
What's your favorite crystal?
Oh, that depends too. Right now I am using just a lot of clear quartz, just a normal clear quartz for clarity, especially since I've just moved. So I just need to be clear on what needs to be done. I'm trying to see what else. That's sort of my main one right now. I have a lot of crystals like lapis lazuli and tiger eye, and it really just depends on what's going on. But
a lot of
that's
tiger
what I'm
eye,
using
the
now.
Empress, a lot of
Exactly. Yeah.
yep.
I have lots of tiger eye. So it depends on what mood I'm in right now.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay.
What would you say has been the best concert you've ever been to?
Prince and the Revolution.
Wow.
I'm showing my age because that was when Purple Rain came out.
Beautiful.
And that was I'm going to say 86, 87, 88. I want to say I was in high school, but the concert was at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, and it was Prince and the Revolution, Time, and Sheila E.
Wow.
That was the best one, but I'm telling you, that was like, I want to say, I cannot remember when Purple Rain came out, but I want to say I was in high school. Wow. So that had to have been late 80s or so. That was the best concert that I had been to. I saw Prince in the flesh. So yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
What would you say to younger Rashunda?
Oh, wow. That's a podcast in itself. I would say, oh my gosh, because it's so many, so many things happen. I would say Dad was right. And I say that because, and this is going to make the podcast go on longer than what it needs to be, but now they call it bullying, but I was very much bullied in high school and junior high school for my looks. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman. I was, dark. I had a gap in my teeth. My hair, I had a relaxer, but it just didn't work. And I got teased a lot. What the kids used to do to me, I would walk down the halls of school, or I'd sit at a lunch table, whatever, and they started going bzzz, like this, because they said I looked like a fly. And what I would say to Rashunda, who, you wouldn't believe the thoughts that were going through my mind when I was a kid, and I was being bullied and teased so much. But my dad would always tell me, he'd say, you know what? His mother died. My grandmother passed when my dad was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. And so he did not really remember what his mom looked like, but his relatives would all the time tell him how beautiful his mom was, and give her description. And so when I would be so depressed and down because of the kids bullying me, I would talk to my dad, and he would say, you know what? When I was growing up, people would talk about how beautiful my mom was, and they would describe her. And when they would describe her, and I think she looks just like you. And don't worry, these kids are just stupid, and they don't know the beauty that they're looking at. Don't worry, honey, it's going to come through. Tramble women blossom.
Oh, that was really special. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's what I would tell the younger Rashunda, that just hold on, just hold on. You're going to be okay.
Where can we find more of you?
You can find more of me at, well, my website is staywoketarot.com. We talked about that. Instagram, Stay Woke Tarot, Twitter, Stay Woke Tarot. Wherever you see Stay Woke Tarot, it's probably me.
And
Even
make
on
sure
YouTube
you're
or
looking
whatever.
out for those scammers, because there's all these random accounts on
Oh
Instagram.
my!
I got followed by Stay Woke Tarot 1 the other day, and I'm like, bitch, you ain't Rashunda.
No,
Come
no, 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 no,
on.
no, no, no. Yeah, and I've just given up. So guys, you all know the only way I do readings. Let me just say that I do tarot readings, and the way you get a tarot reading from me is that you sign up to my newsletter, staywoketarot.com/newsletter, and I announce when the slots are open. I do not send DMs through Instagram. If you get something saying, I want to give you a reading or whatever through a DM from me, supposedly on Instagram, it's not me.
Mm.
So that's where you can find me on my website. Just go to staywoketarot.com. That's where I am.
Perfect.
Great.
And what last little nugget of wisdom would you like to share?
Trust your intuition.
Hmm.
Because 9 times out of 10, it's right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for going there with me today and for sharing your medicine and having this really special conversation. I really appreciate it. And everyone,
so welcome, and thank you.
Go make sure you check out. All the links are in the show notes, and we'd love to hear what you thought. And we'll be seeing you soon. Take care.